Welcome to Shiz Who, your top spot for politics. And my role in bringing you great political content requires your role as a great consumer of Shiz Who. So, like this video, comment on this video, take the video and share it among your friends, and very importantly, subscribe to this channel. More likes and subscriptions make Shiz Who more and more relevant. That's needed in this political season, so keep them coming. And now on to the things which helps keep this show along, starting with the Dissent Agenda, a great new podcast by Melissa Lucasen and Cody Connor, whose StreamYard account is what I do this very show off of. So make sure you also go to the YouTube for the Dissent Agenda and like their programming too. Also, Mr. Farley Perkins at the Farley Perkins Agency can help you out with a lot of insurance needs here in Hampton Roads. So hit up 757-271-6655 to reach out to him so you can get your insurance needs fixed. If you're looking around for some good Southern-based dinner, I would hit up Miss Ellen's at Ellen's Homestyle and Barbecue Express LLC, with a location in Portsmouth Boulevard in Portsmouth and a location across from Regent University in Virginia Beach. There's also a great place for sweets called ELG Sweet Boutique back here in Portsmouth on High Street. Look them up. Also want to shout out my good friend, Mr. Seiko Varner, who at Positive Vibes Incorporated helps you with credit fixes and tax resolutions, lending money, helps with debt. He's also a great entertainer, great DJ, so you can contact 757-932-0177 to use his services there. He also created the Hampton Roads Green Book, which is a great application you can download to help you find Black-owned businesses in Hampton Roads. And also don't forget the Black Swan podcast. You can catch it on Spotify. It's a great new podcast to help you expand your mind, and it's run by my awesome wife, Andrea Dixon Shesventer, so look up the Black Swan podcast. So now, Shiz Who's tour around Virginia's politics, the realm of all that, continues tonight out in House District 36. And I'm bringing on Makayla Venable. She's the Democratic candidate for HD 36, and she has spent her career in healthcare. She's worked the front lines as a phlebotomist and as a direct care aide. She's served in her communities with programs that support families, children, and local workers. Her direct lived experience and deep roots in her district drive her fight for better health care. It drives her fight for stronger schools. It drives her fight to increase real opportunities for people. She's running to represent her community because she is her community, and she knows the voices there deserve to be heard. So I'm going to bring her on right now. Makayla Venable, how are you doing on this night? And I want to know, how has your last week of campaigning been?
Hi, Conrad. Thank you so much for having me. This last week has been very fun. We've been canvassing a lot, and we've really been heading to a lot of different fairs and community events, and just getting out there, letting people see who I am, letting people meet me, letting people ask questions, even the uncomfortable questions. And I feel like just showing up matters. And in my talks with people, it's been a lot of it, oh, well, people don't show up, or at least you're here. So at least you come and you talk to us. And so I think that's so important. When someone's going to represent you, they should know what the issues are or what your problems are. That way they know what to fight for. So
That has given me a little bit of a hint that that district, which I looked up, it already leans kind of strong Republican. But if they're complimenting you for showing up, that means current representation is not. So because of that, I want to give you your prompts for being able to show up and answer all their questions in the moment to help them out on that matter. And of course, as I looked up that district, I'm curious about what is 36? What's the geographic design of HD 36? What are the cities in Virginia that make it up?
So these cities are Staunton and Waynesboro, which are the full cities. And then I share Augusta County, some of it with 35, and then I share some of Rockbridge with 37. So, a lot of people think that it is, really Republican, but just in talking with people, a lot of people just don't come out to vote because they just don't feel that it matters. And I think that's been the big thing since I decided to run, was to hit those districts and those people who feel that they haven't been heard and they haven't been seen. Because there's no reason, honestly, when we look at the numbers, that Waynesboro shouldn't be blue. It's just that
Mhm.
people don't come out and vote. And so we've been very big in activating people to come out. Why state and local elections are just as important as federal elections. So
That sounds like, especially if you get your activation going, you might be able to bring some pretty good momentum into this. So I'm glad to hear that you might energize people who just otherwise would not have shown up.
and I also want to say that Waynesboro just elected their first Black mayor and their first Black female vice mayor. So to me, that says just we have to activate the people to come out and vote. So,
Excellent. Excellent. And I would agree. Now, regarding HT36, I'm curious also, what are your favorite things? What are your businesses you'd like to go to, restaurants that you like to eat at, hangout spots, organizations, and recreation that you find yourself doing in HT36?
so I have to say, Gypsy Hill Park is one of my favorite places. We have a duck pond that I've been going to since I was really little. And I just love to watch the ducks. But I'm not a big ice cream person. I don't like sweets, but we have a place called Split Banana and they serve gelato, which is very different than ice cream, and everybody loves the Split Banana. Downtown Stanton has just so many great businesses. I recently stopped by the olive oil company, and I didn't know that tasting olive oil was a thing, but it is. And we have a lot of wineries downtown, and I'm just getting into wine. So downtown, it's just so loving, and we have a big mural that says, you know, you belong here, you're welcome here. And it's just, I love the feeling of downtown because it's just it just makes you feel like you're a part of a community that cares, and that's my favorite part. And in Waynesboro, I have to say I like going to just I just got into coffee. I wasn't a coffee drinker, but they have cute little coffee shops that I've been going to, and I've been trying different coffees, and that's been fun for me too. So we have the French press and then Packed Coffee.
I went to a place called Por Favor today over in Virginia Beach. So, yeah, going to nice little coffee places are pretty cool. I'm glad that Staunton Stanton, because I know that there's some debate as to how it's officially said over the years. To my ears, I've heard. I'm glad that there's still a lot of happening life around there, because over here you think that that's like just the mountains or something like that. So that sounds pretty cool. I should visit someday.
Oh, you should. It's such a great little community.
Definitely will put that in my mind. Um, Now, I hear that you have a big history in healthcare, helping women, underserved folks. Um, so, how do you want to preserve rights in healthcare and strengthen the whole of the Virginia healthcare apparatus for citizens?
Yeah, I do. I first got my start when I was about 19. I was working the dining service at an assisted living, and then I progressed to become a direct care aide. And after doing that for a few years, I ended up going to our community college and I got my phlebotomy and I ended up doing that. And so with that, I ended up working at UVA, the hospital. And, healthcare is both a right and it's the backbone of our economy. And being in those rooms with people who had to choose between medicines and their rent and all that, it really opened my eyes because I've always been fortunate to be have like private insurance to where these things weren't issues, and if I wasn't working at the hospital, it wouldn't have opened my eyes to the struggles that other people had. So within strengthening Virginia's healthcare systems, to me, that means supporting our hospitals, especially in the rural areas, and making sure our healthcare workers are paid fairly and we could provide stipends and incentives to keep our talents here. I know just at the Chambers of Commerce meeting with Augusta Health CEO, she said that they do have some doctors, but a lot of the doctors don't live in the area. And that is something that they want to change. So I feel like providing stipends and incentives to keep our talents here would be amazing. And when we invest in the whole healthcare apparatus from, prevention with mental health and to treatment, we save lives and we save money and we build very healthier communities.
I want to throw this out on the screen from Mel, hi Mel, had her on just recently on the show. Go, Makayla, go. So
Oh,
great
I
to
love
see all
that.
the solidarity here between the candidates.
And I
I
can say, not to, we really, we really do have in our group chat, we have people who've ran before and newcomers, and the people who have ran before have just been so helpful with telling us what to do, kind of what to expect, and here do this and here do that, or maybe don't do that.
Mhm.
And it's been great. They've been such great mentors, and it's just so nice to be able to talk to people because I feel like you don't understand being a candidate until you've been one. So it's been such a great experience with everybody.
I'm glad you were able to have such resources amongst yourselves. And I think because she's also running in a district that might be perceived as a little bit more rural, um, as opposed to urban, that she would be facing similar issues on the healthcare front regarding rural hospitals, which were going to be even more on the brunt of possibly closing down after all the Medicaid cuts that are projected after the quote big beautiful bill. So to have mindful folks like yourself, like Mel and others, would be great to have in Virginia as an opinion of mine. And she has another comment up here. The signal chat has been wonderful thanks to Dr. Fergie Reed's idea. So shout out to Fergie Reed, who was instrumental in getting 100 Democrats to run in one in each district of Virginia. So great stuff to see that because the Republicans don't even have all 100 seats being fought for this year. Now, I haven't asked my previous delegate guest this, and that's my mistake. But as a top spot for politics, it's important for me to ask yourself and others, and Mel, if you want to put this in the comments too, that'd be great, about Virginia's constitutional ballot initiative this fall. And the amendment prohibits the state from penalizing, prosecuting, or taking adverse action against an individual for exercising the individual right to reproductive freedom or for aiding another individual in the exercise of that right. So I'm curious, how would you vote for it? Why would you vote the way you would vote for it?
Of course. Thanks, Conrad, for that question. I would automatically vote yes on this amendment because, every individual deserves the freedom to make personal healthcare decisions without government interference. And me personally, I feel like it's easy for lawmakers to try and pass restrictions when they're not the ones directly impacted and they've never sat in the room with the patient facing an impossible decision. And I think that's where I come in because I have been in these rooms, and I always tell people when I'm talking to them, and we have politicians that say, "Well, I talked to the doctor, or I talked to the nurses," and I love that they talk, but being the firsthand experiences that I've had being in the rooms, it opens your eyes and you see that these aren't easy decisions for women to make. And I'm so glad that we're in Virginia, which is one of the only southern states that doesn't have an extreme abortion ban. And to sit in the room and hold a woman's hand when she's told, there's something's wrong with your baby and this could potentially hurt you. And it opens your eyes in a way that I can't explain unless you've been there. And no one should be punished for seeking care or helping someone else have access to it. And protecting reproductive freedom to me is about dignity, safety, and equality for all Virginians. So
And I know that when I go out to early vote, way over here in Portsmouth, way away from Staunton, that I'm going to be voting to preserve such rights because I like how it's listed as not only an individual right, but an individual right of another who shouldn't be penalized from the government for opting to do this choice. And that's the problem. You've heard of so many um, really negative stories coming out of Southern Republican states of people who were punished for not only seeking out that option, but doctors who were afraid to help because they were feared that they were going to be penalized. So ensuring via that very strong language there that it would be unpenalized, I think that's key. And I would join you in such a positive vote. And I also want to put up here on the screen from Susan Stone. Makayla has my support. We need young, motivated, compassionate people like her to make a difference in the community. So thank you, Ms. Stone, for making that comment here. Now, you've mentioned your fight generally for healthcare, but another service that people need is education. And I can immediately point to Trump dissolving the Department of Education if I wanted. I could point to Republicans in Virginia fighting hard to give everyone vouchers and have them sent off to the nearest private religious institution. But how do you want to help education?
I want to help education. Again, it's from a personal experience because I have a lot of friends who are teachers. And I feel, even though my friends are glad to, I feel like my friends shouldn't have to be funding their classrooms with their own money, especially when we know that teachers don't make enough as is. So I want to help education by making sure every child in Virginia has access to a quality public school, no matter their zip codes. And for me, that means making sure we're fully funding our schools and paying our teachers what they deserve. And I personally am big in after school programs that keep kids safe and engaged because I was a product of after school programs. I went to the Boys and Girls Club. My grandmother worked at the post office and she raised me, and just going to these places after school, it really kept us, like I said, engaged and off the streets. And I still have so many great friends from these programs. And I also want to expand career and technical trainings so students who maybe don't want to go to college can still build good careers here at home. And most importantly, I think that children shouldn't have to suffer because of situations they can't control, whether it's poverty or lack of resources or underfunded schools.
Mhm.
And I don't believe in diverting taxpayers' dollars to private school vouchers. Public money should strengthen our public schools because that's where the majority of our kids are, and that's where our future is being built. And also, just like I said, I'm very engaged in the community. And so the other day I posted on Facebook and I said, hey, any child that wanted to go to governor's school, which is a school that we have here that helps kids prepare for college. It does like labs and it does coursework that you would have in a college setting. And I was, when I graduated in 2013, it was an issue with not having transportation. And so someone brought it to my attention that there still wasn't transportation. And so I reached out to some of the students that I knew that graduated. Like I said, I posted on Facebook and they told me it was still an issue. So when I went and talked with the school board, I go to school board meetings. They said that they weren't aware that it was an issue. And I said, I have to stop you right there. I graduated in 2013. It was an issue then.
Mhm.
It's still an issue that 12 years later. How can you not know that that's an issue? That just tells me that, for one, I mean, they're not doing their jobs, or for two, they just don't care. And that's just not okay. All kids should be afforded the opportunity to go to governor's school if they're selected, no matter if they have transportation or if their parent has a car. That's just crazy to me. So,
I would second a lot of that, and especially the after school programs. As someone who has worked in multiple cities' after school programs, I can really tell that they mean a lot to the kids doing that, and that they are going to be made to be better people as they grow up because of that. So I would encourage that definitely to grow, among other things. And I know you want to fix healthcare, and I know you want to fix education, and a lot of people will start to breathe easier if those two things happen. But they're still going to need a home to be able to come home to at night. And I had Reza Hayes on, if she's watching. Hey, Reza, running for Virginia's 52nd district, way out in Lynchburg. She's experienced homelessness. I bought a home in 2022, and I know that they're only getting more expensive, pricing a lot of people out of the ability to buy a house, and renting is also getting more expensive too. So, what is wrong with housing, and what do you want to do for housing to fix it here in Virginia?
I think one of our big issues here in District 36, and this is once again me just out talking with people, a lot of young people feel like they're never going to be able to buy a home or be able to move out of their parents' house because we have they make maybe they make more than enough to qualify for low income, but then these affordable, it's like, yeah, I can afford rent, but then I can't eat for the rest of the month. So I just feel like, that's the younger people, but I also just feel like too many Virginians are struggling to find safe and affordable housing. Rent keeps going up, starter homes feel like they're out of reach, and working families are being priced out of the very communities they serve. And I feel like what's wrong with housing is that it's become an impossible burden for everyday people, and that hurts our economy and our families. And I want to fix that by bringing more state resources directly into our communities, creating incentives for developers to build affordable and workforce housing, expanding rental assistance programs, and helping first-time home buyers with down payment support. I'll also work to help protect tenants from unfair evictions and rising costs while investing in low income and missing middle is what I like to call it housing. Everyone deserves a roof over their head, and no child should have to worry about where they're going to sleep at night. So, and this just comes from out talking and canvassing and speaking with people in the community. I like to I don't like to speak on things unless I have, kind of accurate, this is how the people are feeling. So,
Sounds like a true representative right there.
thank you.
Now, good healthcare, check. Good schools, check. Good housing, check. Then I hear Trump just canceled over 175 million in high-speed rail funding it just in California. Um, Republicans aren't known as being the best on infrastructure, but I hear you do want to improve infrastructure, especially in your district and other parts of Virginia. In what ways would you like to do that?
Well, once again, I'm going to say it again because this is all stuff that I'm learning from canvassing. And canvassing is so important. Like I said, I feel like you cannot represent a community if you're not out there talking with people. And I was just canvassing in an area in Waynesboro, and they were telling me that they're tired of driving on crumbling roads. It damages cars, it puts drivers at risk, and it even causes some people to trip and fall when they're walking. So I want to be strong on infrastructure because it's the backbone for every community. When our roads and bridges and broadband aren't reliable, businesses won't invest here and workers struggle to get their jobs. Like I said, out canvassing, I've heard from so many people about the poor conditions of our roads and the urgent need for pavement repair. And I just want to make sure that Virginia invests in fixing our roads, modernize modernizing our infrastructure and expanding public transportation options and bringing high speed internet to every home, because infrastructure is more than concrete. It's about connecting people to opportunity and keeping our community safe and strong.
And it's like literally the things that we use to get around are going to be based on this infrastructure. So I would second your opinion that we need to improve it in various ways. Of course, there's a lot of ways to do it out here in the Hampton Roads, and of course, way out there in Staunton, Virginia, Waynesboro, so on, could definitely use improvements as well. So, how about the relative last piece of the puzzle? Beyond a good infrastructure and beyond schools and healthcare and housing, people still need good paying jobs. How do you complete the promise of opportunity for people as a delegate in HD 36?
With Conrad, with that, I think that we complete the opportunity in the area by investing in things that make businesses want to stay and grow here. You know, it all everything ties in together: strong schools, reliable infrastructure, and a skilled workforce. That means supporting career and technical trainings, apprenticeships, and retraining programs so people are prepared for the jobs of today and tomorrow. And I think it also means fighting to keep hospitals and local services strong, because businesses look at community stability before they invest. So my focus is creating the conditions where good paying jobs aren't the exception, but the expectation for families in our community. Like I said, all these things tie into one. And that's why I was really big on your priorities, my purpose, because I feel like when people's basic needs are met, it just makes for a better community and a better society altogether. So,
Now, there are other industries that need to be improved beyond just um, that of the service industry that might be largely here in Virginia, or federal jobs like a lot of the military jobs that are in Virginia. Farming, agriculture, it's really, really important to the state's economy, especially out there where you are in HC 36. You're not forgetting them. So, how do you want to protect them?
I'm going to make sure that farming stays very strong here in Virginia by protecting our farmland from overdevelopment and making sure that family farms can keep thriving. So for me, that means fighting for fair prices, better infrastructure like roads and broadband, just to make sure that they're able to import and export, and resources like grants or low interest loans to help small farms succeed. And I also want to help young and beginning farmers so that the next generation can carry on this work. Farming is the backbone of our economy and our way of life, and I want to fight to keep it that way. We have all the high school programs and all these things, and FFA and all these. I just want to make sure that everybody can succeed in whatever job or whatever path they choose to take in life. I want them to know that it's obtainable. So,
Yeah, it's a solid way. If you protect the farmers, you protect all the other industries, make sure people are well paid. I think it's going to be really, really beneficial to the entire state, and that just be a good reason why that you, the viewer who lives out there in HC 36, should vote for Makayla Venable. Now, before I trail off into the questions about some other cool things that might be popping up, I had forgotten until the show started that a friend of mine, Andrea Jackson, shout out to Andrea, she'll probably be watching, from Waynesboro. I had asked her to watch tonight and to possibly ask some questions. She did give some questions to me. She's a bit of a progressive Democrat, much like myself. Would you be interested in hearing what those questions are?
yeah.
So, again, hopefully, Andrea, you're watching right now. First one is: how is running as a Democrat in a rural area essentially ignored by what might be considered like the establishment, like the Democrat Party of Virginia? Do you feel a distance from them?
Um, I'm not going to say that I necessarily feel a distance. I will say that I think that sometimes, well, I'll say this, sometimes I feel like people who don't live in these areas, it's sometimes it's hard to hear when people are like, well, you're just not going to win anyway. And when you put in the work and you do the numbers, especially in my area where it's only plus 15, which is not easy to win, but it's not unobtainable to win this area. You just have to really put in the work. And I think with us, that's been the biggest thing. Like when I was out for the presidential election and I was helping with that, I listened to people, and a lot of people just felt like they weren't being seen or heard. It was young people, marginalized people. And I think that the numbers aren't technically accurate because these people didn't come out to vote. And so when we go out and we engage and we knock on these neighborhoods and we talk to these people who before might not have been talked to or reached out to, I think it really changes the game. So I think that the way that this campaign has been moving and just trying to really include every single person, I think, we're doing good. But yeah, sometimes it is hard when people say things like, oh, well, that area is not winnable, so we just don't pay attention.
Mhm.
They don't know the potential here. They don't live here. So, but that's why we keep fighting. I
I'm
don't let
glad
it.
you were able to touch on how you reach out and you see so many young people who themselves maybe feel a little disaffected or not, or whatnot, which leads me to another one of her questions, which is how is it running as a Gen Z politician in a southern rural area?
Um, I think especially in this area that some people don't listen, but I'm building these connections with these people who are older, and we've been able to have conversations of why things haven't worked out or why things have been the way that they have been. I can personally say for me that my experience has been great. Delegate Gardner, she just reached out to me and she invited me to a luncheon where I got to come and be around some of the former delegates and the some Democratic incumbents, and they talked to me and they loved on me and they gave me great advice. And I think, if I can really be frank, I think in this area, especially, a lot of people are excited because I'm young and because I'm a woman of color. We are able to engage and bring hope to a lot of people who, like I said, maybe before hadn't felt seen or heard. We're opening up to a whole different demographic because I have friends who had never cared about politics before, but they know I do. And they're like, oh, they'll ask me questions. They ask me, well, what does a delegate do? Or so we're engaging,
Mhm.
more young people, and I'm excited about that.
And the last thing she had is, I guess, like if you could think of the typical Democratic candidate, how are you different compared to the typical Democratic candidate?
Honestly, I can just feel I'm different because, like I said, I'm being inclusive of everybody. And I feel like sometimes the poorer class is often overlooked, the poor and the working class. It's been a hard focus on the middle class, middle class, middle class, middle class. And that's just also from me talking with people. Like I said, they feel like they don't matter. They feel like it doesn't matter if they vote or if they don't vote. Nobody cares about them. So I think, honestly, for me, it's literally caring about everybody, no matter your social class, no matter your race, no matter your gender. It's just being a people person and
Mhm.
really caring about what this community needs. And like I said, you don't know what the community needs if you're not there. I've been out, I go to school board meetings, I've been to the board of supervisor meetings, I still go to NAACP meetings when I can. And I think just showing up and listening, and people are like, oh, I'm not a career politician. I'm literally just a regular, hardworking woman who has just lived life. My lived life experiences have been able to help me connect with people, and I think that's just what's missing in politics. Authenticity is one of them.
Mhm.
And like I said, people just really are tired of rich people. And that's coming from the words of a lot of people in my community. What can these rich people do for us? So I
Mhm.
think people who have known me for a while and know that I'm, like I said, I'm not a career politician. I think that's what separates me because I'm not a career politician. I'm just your everyday average working person.
No, I'm nearing the end of things that I think make you a great candidate in terms of policies here. But before I go to the part about where you do your last pitch, um, what other cool things that you think haven't been touched on yet that you would like to lead on, if you can, as a delegate?
Well, I have to say, you have brought up my friend Risa before, and she's opened my eyes up to a lot of things when it comes to the autistic community that I wasn't aware of. So I think it will be fun to work with her and to support her in the things that she wants to do when it comes to that with people with disabilities. I'm really excited, and I hope that we both get elected so that we can help another group that is often, you know, overlooked. And I have to say, me, Risa, and I have really connected, and she's my friend, and we go to all the events together, and she's opened my eyes to a lot that I probably honestly wouldn't have known if it wasn't for her. So I'm excited to help her and support her in the legislation that she wants to pass. I heard her talking about at will and all that stuff, and I've told her I have your back. I'll support you in anything that you need. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Excellent. It's heartwarming to hear, and I definitely again want to shout out Risa Hayes for coming on the show when she did, and that so many people like yourself also supporting her and her running. She's supporting you, and it just seems like there's a lot of good, solid momentum going into this November for even the candidates that one may have thought didn't have as much of a chance in 2024 for this race as people will probably start to think right about now. Which brings me, of course, to your pitch. If you knocked on my HD 36 door and I didn't know about the race just yet, how would you sell me on coming out to vote for you?
Okay. Or are you registered to vote? No. I would knock on your door and I would say, "Hello, how are you?" And I would say, there is an election coming up, and I would like to know what issues matter to you. And that approach has been really great. And I would just say, I'm not a career politician. I've worked in healthcare. I've been a factory worker. I put in the hard work. I work 12 to 16-hour shifts. I know what it's like, to get that paycheck and just feel like, you're working so hard and it still feels like you can't come up. And that's exactly why I'm running, because I just want to be a voice to regular people. And, Shirley Chisholm, who is one of my idols, her big thing was about reminding the people that the government works for you, not the other way around. You elect people to represent you. And that has just been my biggest thing, is that I just want to remind people that, like I said, a lot of people in this area are feeling kind of hopeless and like it doesn't matter. So just reminding people, hey, I'm just a regular person. The government doesn't you the government works for you, and it's not the other way around. And that approach has been very good. And I'm a proud Democrat, but I purposely did not put anything about being a Democrat on my um, literature, because sometimes I feel like when people see Democrat, they're automatically turned off. But in talking with people, then we get to the end and like, were you a Democrat or a Republican? And I say, well, I am a Democrat. And they said, well, you're not bad. Or you're not bad. Oh, well, you get me. And so I, that has been really good.
And I do kind of hope, as someone who's also a pretty strong Democrat himself, who would like to critique in the moment, in the past year's moments, and as the next day comes by, how I seem sometimes like they're not doing the right thing in order to get more people to vote for them. I do like to hear that you're able to connect at least one on one with people in a solid, productive way. So cheers to that, and I hope that you have a lot of good luck when you go door to door to door canvassing. But other than that, I also want to thank you for coming on Chesu, Makayla Venable, running for HD 36 in Virginia. It's a very cool thing of you to do, and I hope that you also have good luck going into that, and just a great evening. And I really want to thank you for coming on the show.
And I want to thank you for having me. And I also want to thank you for having my friends like Rodney, Melody. I saw you had Sam on, and I think it means a lot to us to be reached out to come on platforms like this, to be able to speak. So I want to thank you for all that you're doing and for reaching out to us. And we really appreciate that. Just as much as, we're giving hope to people, stuff like this gives hope to us as candidates. And I really hope that that it's just amazing, that you're allowing us to come on here and speak. So thank you so much,
Thank
Conrad.
you so much. Again, because you're going to be connected to a lot of people going forward who are also winning that I'm trying to reach out to, just to give them a nice shot in the arm to say, "Shit, is a great place to come on by and chat it up about politics." So I thank you for that, Ms. Makayla. So other than that, again, I just hope you have a great night, and I'll be catching you around.
Thank you so much. You have a blessed night.
Thank you. You too. All right. That's been Makayla Venable, Virginia delegate candidate in HD 36. I hope you have enjoyed her as a guest on this episode of Shiz Who. Thanks for joining me tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, you have a great night yourself.